I tend to have more of like, I think like in the case of Malibu and the Palisades, the way it burned down, I feel like a lot of people, until their fucking roof, not even their neighbor's house is on fire, the minute the first shingle on theirs, that's when they start worrying. I don't think we live in a time and a world where we can wait anymore until the fire comes to our own home. The nation's on fire. It's been on fire. It's been bled. It's been dissolved. No one should have any influence on our country. I don't care if it's Albania, Israel. I don't give a fuck. China, no one.
How much of that is because we have access to the internet and social media today versus, say, the 1960s when our government whacked the president, we went to Vietnam on a lie, you know, like all this shit, MLK got killed. Like imagine if social media and the internet was around then, what kind of fucking Epstein files would have been coming
I'd say that's the biggest factor and why most people woke up. I don't know a single person my age that would go to the Middle East and die nowadays. Nobody under the age of 25 would want to go die for a foreign nation. It's madness. And I think a lot of people's problems is that we don't like to put ourselves in somebody else's shoes. So even with that, you know, conservative liberal split, like if you put yourself into a liberal shoes, I do think a lot of them do have good intentions, bro. Like,
Sure.
So let's say in Islam, let's say you say something disrespectful about the prophet or about God or something in general, but I believe you're sincere. God says in the Quran, repel evil with what is best, like best in speech, best in body language, best in nature. And the one you're in a feud with will be like a close friend. So I think a lot of our problem is that we keep trying to fight fire with fire, and that's only dividing us further apart. And this is why no one's able to come together and do something like fix this. When we have this in front of our faces, that the people that are in charge of our media, our politicians, are not only blackmailed by a foreign nation, but they're doing demonic rituals in front of our eyes.
All right, so a couple things here, Serafino. Number one, if we didn't have access to the internet for all those years and this type of shit was going on, what does that say about now having access to it, that we're this angry and worried about the civilizational risk if we were blissfully ignorant for so long that it was already a thing?
Well, at least the older generation, you can speak on this probably even better than me.
Not that
you
old,
guys
though.
at least got to buy a house. You at least, your minimum wage, you were able to afford things and take your girl out. You could have
I'm only
a man
like
running the
20 years
home and
older than
support.
you. It's been a little crazy.
Only
lately.
20?
Yeah, houses cost $1 million on this side of the water since the early 2000s. So take it easy there, kid.
Okay, my grandparents then. All the women were virgins at that time. You can't even get a
All of
wife
them?
now. Yes,
Nah, I don't
most
buy
of
that.
them. Most of them.
Yeah.
Pull it up on
They
my
were giving- they
Instagram.
were
You can pull it
giving
up if you
handies behind
want.
the
I did a
cafeteria.
video with my grandma and all her sisters. There's 5 of them.
Who was?
I said, what made a woman a whore back in the day? I asked my grandma this. She goes, one was a tramp, more than one was a hoa. How many people you've slept
Fucking
with?
Ralphie Silver.
The greatest
right
accent.
This isn't even 60 years ago.
Yo, shout out to his grandmother and his aunts, bro. Amazing cooks, bro.
But the point that I was making before was how they're blowing up kids in front of the world and then gaslighting us about it. If they really wanted to wipe, if they really wanted to just get rid of the Palestinians, they didn't have to do it how they did in front of the whole world, bro.
And
Why
they
do you
made
think they're
another.
doing that?
This is where you go back to prophecy and you go back to what is the spiritual side of things. Do you want to take this one?
I just wanted to add they made a catastrophic mistake in their approach. If they were smart, if their intelligence and the ones pushing all this propaganda were smart, they would have stuck to just dehumanizing Arabs. Instead, they wanted to pull in 2 billion people. You see, when you say all Muslims are this and all, now you're talking about me. You should have stuck to dehumanizing Arabs. You guys have done a great job in Hollywood. You've never seen an Arab ever look even halfway normal in a movie or cartoon ever. But they're the minority. They're 19% of Muslims. Did you know that? They're only 19% of Muslims. So when you talk about the faith, now you're poking a massive bear.
Right.
Now you're poking 2 billion people. And we've covered this on your show. I believe it was with you too, and Danny, that Muslims throughout history, if you pull it up, if you're being fair, if you're actually looking at it in context, have always shielded the Jews. Always. Even in Albania, which was predominantly Muslim at the time, even though Christians did help in those actions when the Germans took over. Throughout history, we protected them. They talk about the Muslims invading Spain. Have you read the history? The Goth kingdoms.
Yeah.
They didn't invade. They were invited in. Half the kingdom was fighting the other half. You know this.
I'm familiar. By the way, I'm familiar with this history, but I'm
Hey,
not.
I wasn't. Half of the Goth kingdom was fighting the other half because it wasn't called Spain. They ended like, hey, Moors, can you come help us one? Because we don't want this other half of us. They were fighting each other. The Muslims came in, and it was a golden age in European history, literally a golden age. All three religions practiced in Spain. Inventions advanced. Jews flourished like flowers in spring in Andalusia. Everyone, I dare you to read the history of Andalusia. And
Andalusia? Can we pull that up?
It's what it was called during the Moors when they controlled that part of Spain. But I want to remind people, they didn't come as conqueror. They were invited by half of that kingdom. Okay? So the way the history is portrayed, the way it's spun, the way they try to paint this faith only benefits one group of people right now. To distract from what's been going on in the Middle East for the last 24, 25 now years, and dehumanization is the number one tool used by any occupiers. But we won't excuse what the Chinese did to the Uyghurs. I still mention them. What's going on in Sudan, okay? They're not off the hook. And I agree with other Jews when they say, but what about Sudan? But okay, so let me justify one horrible thing, but they're doing it too. That's not a fucking excuse. I'm sorry.
It's not. No, that's never.
But that's what they do. But what about this? No, I am. See, I'm one of them ones calling them all out. Everyone, whether it's an Arab country doing it or it does. Human beings have rights, and especially in the faith of Islam. And anyone that's not following that, in my opinion, you ain't a Muslim.
Well, there's another thing I keep thinking here as you're talking about Muslims, Christians, and Jews, and then I can apply this to any of the other major religions as well. It's like that, and I'll admit it, like I do it too, but that's also like the starting problem with the conversation because we box up, a billion people. In the case of Islam, so almost 2 billion people, you box up a similar number with Christians, you box up, millions of Jews all into one box and refer to it as a monolith, when in fact, your Christian neighbor who goes to church on Sunday and lets you think whatever you do and doesn't drag their opinions onto you and everything is a very different type of Christian than someone who's in like a Christian cult that thinks that like anyone who thinks anyone that commits a sin should be executed or something like that. Same thing with an Albanian Muslim versus a hardcore Sharia law Muslim living in Iran or something like that. These are people that are not even on the same planet. They don't have any tie to each other. They claim that the tie is religion, but the way that they view that lens of religion are two entirely different things. So I think we also have to separate out the conversation when we're talking about this, and that's why anytime we're talking about any type of group or whatever, I get uptight about that because it's like I don't want to ever define people by one thing, and that has happened with Islam for sure. It has happened with the Arab community for sure, and that's why you're here talking about it. But like it happens all over to all different groups, even when we think it's something that's like not as much, vitriol going at it. What happens when suddenly it is,
Yeah, I get what you're saying. Yeah, we try to be as specific as we can when we're talking about subjects. You know what I mean? We never try to group like a whole group. And just like the way we say, not all Catholic priests are pedos. And they're not pedos because of Catholicism. Right. The same way we don't say, all Jews are extremists. It's just not true. I have plenty of Jewish friends. My best friend that was Jewish, Ben Bader, shout out him. He just passed away a few years ago. It broke my heart. 25-year-old kid. So, yeah, I get what you're saying, bro.
Yeah. It's just like...
We try to do a good job at that.
Yeah, this is a real... There is so much fucked up shit right now. Again, we're talking about the doomer versus optimism argument. Even if you're an optimist like me, you got to admit there's a lot of fucked up shit going on. And the way that we handle it, where it's like instead of continuing to fight so horizontally, we need to focus on fighting vertically, right? And I think in the vertical direction... There's all different types of groups of people from all over the world. If you want to call it a group, call it like the globalist coalition, if you will. That is, I love the pizza example. I'm going to keep using it, Sonny. Like they keep slicing us up in all these ways. And as long as we use our little microphones here to cutely fucking yell about it and whatever all the time and just focus on a couple different things that they tell us to focus on, we're not going to change shit. That said, when we see something drop like what just did with Epstein, and it is a wide, vast money laundering, arms dealing, intergovernment, sex trafficking, you name it, laundry list of stuff here.
Global.
That attaches to everyone. That is the exact type of situation we should all coalesce around because it can actually change the system if we do something about it.
Julian, I have a question for you. If you were to put 1 million people in and around Times Square, packed, and you had to have them unify on one thing to where there's no fighting, bickering, and everyone's peaceful together, what would that be?
That's an amazing question. No one's fighting and no one's bickering.
Nope, they're stepping on feet and whatnot, but they're all brothers. They get along.
Different ethnicities, groups, languages,
All over, people from all over the world.
races. What could unify them in that such a
If
way?
I could unify them under one thing, I would say forget religion, forget creed, forget all that. Something created us, and it was the same thing. We may not all know the answer, but the same thing created all of us, and let's just accept the fact we're only here for a second, and let's enjoy it while we're here. That's what I would unify.
Brother, you nailed that. Submission to one creator, bro. Submission to one creator. I know you wanted to talk about Islam a little bit. Do you know much about the actual faith itself or anything?
Assume I don't.
Assume you don't. Do you know what the word Islam in itself means?
Isn't it peace?
No.
No?
It's one of the meanings. It is one of the meanings. Salama, he's correct. It's one of the meanings.
But
Good.
the word exactly. Look up. Are you on Google right now? Look up submission to the will of God translated to Arabic. I'm going to wait a second because I want you to see this.
Also, I think we said this. I just want to make sure that Ghislaine email is real. Deef has had it on the screen.
It is real.
she said-
It is real. No, I'm saying it's real. It's real. It's real. It's real.
I mean, that's accurate. She says, thanks for
real.
the invite. Unfortunately, I cannot be on the Shadow Commission. And this is from 2003. And it's referring to the Shadow Commission on 9/11, which she was invited to in the email below her by someone named Ed Epstein.
Ed J. Epstein.
Yeah.
Did you find it? Yeah. Islam. So if you were to directly translate in English, submission to the will of God, you would get the word Islam. That's the direct translation. The direct translation. Now, do you know what the word Muslim means?
No.
Look up one who submits their will to God, translated to Arabic. Muslim. So if you were to directly translate one who submits their will to God, you would have the word Muslim. We're not called Mohammedans for a reason. We don't believe that Islam started with the Prophet Muhammad. Did you know that?
You don't?
No.
No.
Where do you think it started?
Adam. Even before Adam, actually. So we believe there's two free-willed creations on earth, humans and jinn, which would be like spirits or demons. So they also...
Refer back to the last episode with Julian.
Oh,
Dorey.
it comes up all the time. Like
he went deep on that. So you remember how he said how the unseen creation, jinn, they have free will as well, right?
Jinn.
The jinn.
The
As
genie.
Beck says.
So they were actually on earth first. And then God created Adam, right? So this is why we say all the prophets and messengers of God were Muslim, because they all submitted their will to God. Every single one of them. Abraham wasn't Christian, wasn't Jewish. He was a Muslim. He
The word didn't
preached
even
submission
exist.
to the
Those
will of
words didn't
God.
even exist.
David, Noah, they were all Muslims. They all preached worship God alone.
Moses didn't
Beware
walk
of
around
judge-
saying, I'm a Jew.
Wait, so you're saying like figuratively?
No, literally.
No,
we
literally.
believe in all the
Literally.
messengers, bro. Every single messenger that Christianity and Judaism
But did
believes
they
in.
identify that way, or do you guys identify them as that because of what they did?
Can I? You
You
got
answer
this?
that one.
You got this or no?
No, you take it.
Let the spiritual leader do it.
So what the Muslims,
Spiritual
what the
leaders,
Muslim says is the concept of worshiping the one creator has always existed. The word we use is the Arabic meaning of that word, but the concept of submitting to the one creator, or as we call it, the God of Abraham, has always existed. God did not choose just any nation. He chose the Israelites to give revelation, but he didn't choose them above humanity. He chose them to deliver the message. So what we're trying to say is Adam was the first human being created, Adam and Eve, right? And they were in a state of submission to the creator, right? So they were Muslims because of how they lived their lives. The concept of submitting to the one God is why, if you look at all the scriptures, they all worshiped God the same way, as I also mentioned on previous episodes with you. It's the same reason why Jesus in Matthew 26, verses 36 through 39, prayed with his head on the ground. So what we say is God sent prophets and messengers throughout time, throughout history. He didn't just choose one nation. He sent prophets and messengers. Sometimes they were sent just to remind people of the message that came before them. Jesus Christ didn't come to change anything. He came down and lived as what you would call a Jew. That word didn't exist. The word Jew was more from modern history. They were the Israelites. The Israelites were Muslim, meaning they submitted to the God of Abraham. They worshiped the one God. We broke this on Danny Jones. We broke this on you. Viral many times, thanks to both of you. that the word Allah is the cognate of all three religions. Ilah or Elohim, Allah in the Arabic, and Allah in the language of Christ. Christ didn't speak English, bro.
Spoke Aramaic.
He didn't speak Italian. He spoke Aramaic.
He might have spoken some Italian.
So one who submits their will, Sonny just showed you, one submitting their will to God, and the word for God means Muslim, right, in Arabic. If we took the Aramaic, and I want you to do your Shalom Aleik because it's a great bit.
Let's do it.
You do it. It's like Muslim tag teaming here. So when someone is submitting to Allah, which is what Jesus did, or Elohim, which is what Moses did, they are submitting to the same God. It's the same word. So the concept of a Muslim has always existed. One who puts God before everything else.
Yeah, so we're not saying that Christians and Muslims have the same God. What Christians call the Father, like the God that Jesus prayed to in the Bible, that's who we would say is the only true God and the only being worthy of worship. Does that make sense?
The unseen.
It totally makes sense, like on a definitive level, like what it is. And I wonder this about everyone who's, very devout in an organized religion. Does it matter to you that your religion is right when technically you, nor the person that would say you're wrong, whoever they may be, knows the answer to it while we're here on Earth?
Well, we believe it's our, part of our job to simply deliver the message clearly and cohesively. So we don't believe that we can force anyone to convert. God says in the Quran, there's no compulsion in religion. So I don't even like debating, bro, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah, it's harmful.
He's done a debate. I said, don't do it. I don't want him to do any more debates. I never plan on doing a debate in my entire life. I believe the truth speaks for itself. I mean, Julian, do you believe there's nothing worthy of worship except our Creator?
Sure.
Do you believe that there's angels?
I don't know if I've ever actually, that's funny. I don't know if I've ever thought, like, if I fully believe in that. Probably, yeah.
Okay. Do you believe that this Creator sent messengers?
I don't know.
So we can stop there and tackle this one point right here. Men throughout time came claiming to be a messenger on behalf of their Creator.
Right.
Abraham said, he's not just some guy that's spiritual and he's fasting and he's like, this is a way of life, some people say meditating, some people say yoga is a way of life. No, he came saying, I got a message from our Creator to speak with humanity. They're directly claiming to be the one that's communicating to humanity on behalf of God, right? So then you have to look at the evidences at the time for why are they a true prophet or not. Prophet meaning messenger. Mm-hmm. So with Abraham, what was his miracle? He was thrown into a fire at his time, and he survived.
His own father threw him into it.
His own family threw him into a fire, and he survived and came
he's
out.
Considered the
all the people around him were idol worshippers. He was calling them to worship God alone. At the time of Moses, he literally split the sea. And all of the prophets claimed to, they all called you to worship God alone. Jesus, what did he do? He walked on water. He turned a clay bird into life. He did plenty of miracles for the people. He spoke from the cradle in Islam. There's actually miracles about Jesus.
From the cradle?
Yes,
Yeah.
there's miracles in Islam about Jesus that the Bible doesn't actually acknowledge. One very logical one being him speaking as a baby.
Yeah.
So like how young we're talking?
So we're
A baby,
talking
like
literally
out the womb.
with an infancy. So and just to hit this point first, because it's important what you're saying, and we'll get to that. So it's important to know that basically, God didn't make faith where you have to you need someone to teach you. I don't come from a religious family. Sonny didn't even come from a Muslim family, and he found Islam. I didn't know Sonny before he became a Muslim. I had nothing to do with it. Mm-hmm. So, we believe that a lot of these revelations were sent down. They were corrupted, okay? Mm-hmm. Christians didn't have access to the Bible for almost 1,500 years. Sonny actually refreshed my memory on that one. They didn't have access, regular Christians did not have access to the Bible, their own book, for almost 1,500 years. Forget about when he lived and didn't live. Forget the fact that it was compiled after his death. Until the printing press came and there was translations, they did not even have access. The only way they could access it was through the clergy. So in the Quran, thousands of his followers had it memorized, committed to heart. They're known as the Hafiz. This is a phenomenon. Ramadan's next week. I fucking dare you to come, Julian.
Go where?
I dare you to come just one night this Ramadan and witness it yourself. Watch the Imam sing the book without even looking at it. If he makes one mistake of a syllable, just one syllable off, the entire congregation, most of them can correct him. It's literally, they could destroy every Quran on earth and within an hour. I'm not making this up, Julian. But Jesus said in John 15, John 16, because people talk about miracles. All of the prophets of God did miracles, okay? John the Baptist, they chopped his head off. Jesus Christ, based on Christianity, they want to hang him up like a piñata and torture him to death. We don't believe that happened to him. So every prophet had miracles, but the miracle of Islam is the book itself, because there will be no more prophets. There will be no more messengers. We do believe Jesus comes back to finish his mission.
You guys view him as
the Messiah.
Prophet.
The Messiah, yeah.
The Messiah. He spoke from the minute he was born.
Meeting the chosen one, yeah.
Okay?
Interesting.
His mother was a virgin. We believe that. She has her own chapter in the Quran. It's called Mary. It talks about his life. It talks about it from the second he was created, Julian. And by the way, you grow that hair any longer, you're going to look like Jesus. You're starting to look like him. There's pictures of him that he looks just like you, bro. Okay, he looks like a member of the Bee Gees. He looks like the pictures they have of Christ, he literally looks like he's one of the members of the Bee Gees. This is why God said in the Ten Commandments, before Christ, before God, based on Christianity, came down himself, supposedly, he said what? I am one God. I'm a jealous God. Don't make pictures, don't make images, don't make statues. What did they do in Christianity? Violate the Ten Commandments. What did God say in the Old Testament to Moses? Because Moses spoke to God through the burning bush, right? That was a veil, because no human being can see God directly, even the ones that spoke to him, like we believe Moses did and Abraham did. What did God do? Moses asked God in Exodus 33. Pull it up. And I'm going to drop my plane here and you carry on with that. Shalom Aleik. Relax. You've been speaking for minutes. I know you're antsy.
I'm chilling. Do I look like I'm not straight chilling?
I read your body language. Julian doesn't know.
Straight chilling.
Straight chilling.
You're chilling. Yeah,
so getting back to the point, I like to rage.
I'm just letting you cook, Bek.
My thing is this, Julian. If Christians believe that, and it's not to attack them. This is like bringing up common sense is not an attack. It's I'm asking you, explain to me why with logic. Moses spoke to God. We believe that also. Spoke to God directly, even in Islam. Mm-hmm. He asked God in Exodus 33, I think it's verse 20. Okay, most Christians can't even quote my book except the one verse. Chop their heads off. Fucking chop their heads out of context. What does he say? In Exodus 33, verse 18, then Moses said, now show me your glory. God, I want to see you. And the Lord said, I will cause my goodness to pass in front of you, and I will proclaim thy name to the Lord. And verse 20, but he said, you cannot see my face, because no one can see my face and live. God said, you cannot see me in human form and live. Did God forget? Because he wrote the Old Testament. They said, you know what? Not only are you going to see me, I'm going to come down myself. I'm going to look like one of the members of the Bee Gees and do all these miracles that he didn't do until he was 30 years old in Christianity. Till 30, he did nothing. He came down, built some chairs and tables. In the religion of Islam, the first miracle was?
Speaking as a baby, defending his mother's honor.
Defend the honor.
Defending his mother's honor?
Yes. She didn't have a husband. We believe that. She was a virgin. We believe that.
Wait, what about Joseph?
That's the Christian version of it. No man ever.
You guys don't have Joseph.
We don't have him as her husband. She was a virgin. She didn't need protection. She had the protection of Almighty God himself.
Wait, now I'm. You ever get fucked up in your head?
Yes, because you mix the different stuff
up.
I'm mixing we have that problem too.
Because she's the Virgin Mary, obviously.
Peace be upon her. Peace be upon her.
In the Bible, but then she takes Joseph. She has Joseph as a husband,
as a protector and a husband.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So she's a virgin. Jesus is conceived, miraculously and spiritually, and she's a virgin. But then she is married. So does she stay a virgin the whole way through? This is where my Christianity is losing me. Or is that she's in a lawful marriage? And what is the belief
I think the
system?
Christian perspective is she was married to him and it was basically a cover for her, right? But people can comment better, right? I don't claim to be an expert 1,000%.
I'm not.
From the Islamic perspective, from the Muslim perspective, she was not married. She was a virgin. Because she was not married and because no one knew she had a husband, they knew her as a daughter of the house of Jacob. She was under lock and key the entire time she was pregnant with Christ for her own protection. Because Israelite law was if you commit adultery, you're stoned to death. It's not a Sharia thing. Kosher law. You commit adultery. That was what it was. It's the same laws of the Old Testament. So for her own protection, she's under lock and key. And to make the story short, when she's time to give birth to Christ, she's commanded to go out from the town, whether it was Bethlehem or wherever she was at that point. She was somewhere in that region. She delivers Christ. God tells her, you'll go back to the city, the town. You will not speak to anybody. If anyone approaches you, point to the baby. This is in the Quran, chapter Mary. You can pull it up. We believe when she returned holding a baby, they knew she was a virgin. They mobbed, the Israelites gathered around her. Because we all know what ended up with her happening to her son anyway, right? How they viewed him. They gathered against her and they wanted to stone her to death. They were calling her every slur you could call a woman. A whore, a this, a that. How could you have a baby? You don't have a husband married, okay? And Jesus Christ's first miracle was to speak as an infant. Do not attack my mother, for she is blessed in this life and the next, and I am the Messiah you wait for. When they see this baby talk, they parted like the Red Sea.
That's a bar.
And moved out of their way because clearly a baby's talking, saying he's the Messiah. I'm getting out of the way now. Okay, I'm sorry for stopping you. So his first miracle was to defend the honor and dignity of his own mother based on Islam. Christianity, 30 years, he comes down. His first miracle is to bring us wine so we could fucking drunk drive. I've lost so many family members and friends that have died in car accidents, beat the shit out of their spouses. Not my friends, but just people in general.
That wasn't the intention, though. That's
my friend,
kind of taking it too literally.
Based on the Muslim perspective, it was inspired by the devil himself. The creation of alcohol.
Inspired by the devil.
Creation of alcohol.
To destroy humanity.
Yeah.
Intoxicants,
Yes.
spirits.
Okay, all right, fine.
And they found it in ancient Egypt, right? You know why they found beer in ancient Egypt? I guarantee you, because we covered this on your show. Black magic. Pharaoh did black magic. They communicated with these same beings that everyone wants to call the Anunnaki. Everyone wants to call fucking aliens.
I call them the Anunnaki.
We're the fucking aliens. I told this to you. We fell from the heavens. Sonny, I'm gonna shut the fuck up.
That was a Bek bar. I call them the Anunnaki.
The Anunnaki. Yeah, you remember that line, you see?
Billy Carson.
So it's a soul on arson.
I love how you say that. Like there's a real flavor in your voice. Yeah.
Well, he ended up having a few things happen after that time period.
Yeah.
But I'm sure you could see the wisdom in why Islam forbids things at its core. You know, everyone that's had a couple drinks knows that you get that little voice in your head. Let's get hammered. Let's go out. Let's get hammered. Stopping it at its inception, the root, no drinking at all, not even a sip, it doesn't open the door to then go and get drunk. And then obviously you know that when you get drunk, your spiritual shield has a bunch of holes in it so the demonic realm can mess with you. And that's why you're more susceptible to listening to their whispers. So when you get that whisper, watch that website, pull it up. You didn't get no action tonight, or go out, or text that girl.
Alcohol,
because you're more susceptible in a drunken state. Does that make sense?
It does. I think this is one of those things, though, where it also is another example of what moderation can be. Do I think that a human being is healthier drinking water than alcohol? Of course I do. It's scientifically proven. Alcohol is literal technical poison in your blood. But do I think that life is worth living and you can have a good time and you can do things responsibly using your own free will to do things responsibly? Yes. Do I think that sometimes people fall short of that? Some people far more than others in many cases, right? Yeah. I think that's a part of the range of human nature, though. I'm not saying that like, oh, it's this amazing thing or whatever, but I argue with pretty much anything in society that argues against equilibrium, right? Equilibrium is met by two opposite forces attracting each other to create what the answer should be. If those opposite forces are both right here, it's a lighter creation. It's healthy. When they're out here, now you have violence. So if I go out and I drink fucking 3 handles of Jack Daniels and then, you know, drunk drive and kill someone, oh, well, that's probably pretty devilish. I think I'd agree with that, right? But if I, you know, spend my whole life in a convent and don't do anything and don't have a good time or whatever and claim it's for the best and don't live my life, and that's just one of the experiences I kind of miss, not the extreme, but you know what I mean, like having a good time drinking, I don't know that that's like, that's a good trade-off either. And I think that when people look at like, with any religion, when they look at strict adherence with Christianity, with Judaism, with Islam, there's strict adherences in all those, entire time, brother. In all those religions, and we can talk about that, but there's some very strict adherences. There's a difference between an Albanian Muslim, as we said, and someone Sharia, you know. But like, I think that we got to strike more of a balance rather than just be like, we're going to root out all this stuff. You know what I mean, Sonny?
Root out what? If you could.
Meaning like you talk about like, oh, root out alcohol at the base and it's just completely evil and there's nothing good about it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think you have to look at life that way. I think that's kind of a cynical way to look at life.
Islam doesn't give you the solution to just fix problems. Like you become an alcoholic and then you go to Islam to fix it. It stops things at its root core. And Islam, even the way the Quran talks about banning alcohol, you remember the verse?
Forbidden to you are all forms of intoxicants and gambling, for they were created by the devil, by Satan, to create hatred between you.
But not just that. Not drinking, I'm paraphrasing this right here, but there's more harm than there is good.
Facts.
So overall, there's more harm in drinking and what comes of it. Bro, I know from my own family.
No, I'm not disagreeing with that.
My own family, bro. Every time there's a fight or some stuff going on and then sisters don't talk to each other for years, always starts with drinking. Every single time.
create hatred.
It's been a net negative 1,000%. And I've looked at my family. I'm the youngest one in basically the whole family, and I stopped drinking. I'm the only one that doesn't. I'm like, if we just stop doing this one thing, everything would be 10 times better. 10 times better. And it's fascinating. But to get back to the point.
Can I just hit one point here? Because we're talking about alcohol.
Yeah, you go.
Julian, in the United States of America alone, look, if he pulls it up here, okay, 178,000 people died last year. We're talking about Gaza and this and that, and oh my God.
From excessive alcohol use.
Okay, we have a fucking war right here spiritually. We're losing more people than people lose in wars, just to alcohol. That's not all the other damage. That's not the kid growing up without his mom, or the mom growing up without her child because he got hit by a drunk driver, the families it destroys, the divorces that it causes, which we all know leads to single-parent homes. Okay? I miss it sometimes too. I was one of the kings of New York nightlife. You want to talk about fucking
what happened?
handles?
That's when
Brother,
I knew you.
You want to talk about handles? You want to talk
If you
about...
buy a drink in New York, I'll eat my hat.
I got that shit on lockdown still. I don't go out. But my point is this, Julian. The amount of damage. So Islam says because so many... It's not... We can't sit here and say, Julian, just a few people have a drinking problem. I fucking dare you to pull up AA meetings just in this town.
Yeah, I want to make sure, and I'm sure people are going to mishear what I said there. I'm not. I've seen that in my own family. I've seen that in my own friends. There are people that have issues where it is destruction for sure. I'm not.
No, I know you're
saying that that's not the case. I'm just anytime anything, and this has been the story of my life and the story of anyone who's ever heard me talk on any issue. Anytime anything goes hardcore, this or that, just 0 or 100, I always push back on that on this show, and that's what I'm doing. Because like you pull this up, Deef, can you Google how many people died in car accidents last year?
And that's probably because of drunk driving. But here's
hold
my
on,
point.
hold on. How many people died in non-drunk driving related car accidents last year? $28,000 to $29,000 people annually die in the U.S. from non-drunk driving traffic.
30% of them are from what?
No.
I know, but
I'm saying, but I just asked for the ones that aren't involved with that. So the 28 to 29,000 is the ones that aren't involved. Does that mean we all shouldn't drive cars?
No, it says 30% of that.
30% of that. So almost a third of that.
Approximately die annually in the U.S. from non-drunk driving traffic accidents. Yeah. While roughly, it's a separate 30%.
Oh, it's a separate 30%?
Yes,
Okay.
That's what I'm saying. The 28 to 29 is non-drunk driving accidents.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, again, that's not 178,000, to be clear. Let's line up the numbers, apples to
that was
apples.
all alcohol-related deaths.
Yes, I understand that.
That we can account for.
Right.
That doesn't include the divorce it creates.
I'm saying,
the domestic violence it creates, the fucking...
That's right.
Right? You can't keep your dick in your pants because you had a couple of fucking brewskis.
That's... Beck, for one second,
destruction.
Please. I'm just saying. Like... This is the one thing with you. You are so fucking, it's gotta be this way about everything. And I love your passion, bro. Because people sometimes, you may say things where it's like, man, this guy's cooking for 80%. And then that last 20%, you just drunk drive off a bridge, no pun intended. And I'm just saying, like, just be a little more open to like, well, maybe there's light here or light there. And that's why I don't subscribe to organized religions at all. I listen. I have guys like Wes Huff in here. I have guys like you in here. I let these guys talk. I let Wes Huff talk. If people are out there upset, I'm not pushing back on stuff. I want to hear your perspective and whatever. And then there's some things I'll push back on. But like whenever organized religion turns into its dogma, this is what you have to do. This is when you do it. This is why you do it. It feels robotic and groupthink to me. And I say that about all of them.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. This is why I mentioned earlier, Beck, you're supposed to, both of us, repel evil with what is best. You know what I'm saying? Even when the Quran was being revealed. So just so you have a little bit of understanding of how the Quran actually came down, because it's important for this point, it was one verse at a time. So it wasn't like the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, sat in a cave and had a feather and was thinking about some wisdom that he experienced in his life and he should write down for humanity to apply. No, he was receiving revelation one piece at a time from God. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So he would receive it. It's literally God's words. We don't believe the Prophet Muhammad wrote the Quran. We believe it's literally the words of our Creator explaining to us how to live properly. So it was revealed over a period of 23 years, right? Alcohol wasn't forbidden for over a decade, bro. Over a decade. As Muslims, we're not commanded to go around and tell people all about the rules, about put this on your head and stop drinking and this and that. We're first called to invite people to worship God alone, right? And then I'm not sure what the exact order after that, but then the angels. And did God send prophets and books? And does he have a divine decree over everything? And judgment day. These are things that are much more important than just diving right into the rules, because at the end of the day, we believe that God is the most compassionate and the most merciful. So this whole life isn't just about sins, bro. It's not just about doing more good than your sins. A lot of it stems from your intention. So there's going to be plenty of non-Muslims that go to heaven that didn't get the message of Islam. And there's going to be plenty of Muslims that go to heaven. That go to hell because they had guidance and they still disobeyed. And they did good actions with the wrong intentions. But let me just finish this point, bro. Like, the U.S. about 100 years ago tried to forbid alcohol. How did that go?
Not well.
How did that go? It only propped up gangsters.
Yep.
1,400 years ago, a man who couldn't read or write came and said, he didn't even say it, it was God in the Quran, forbidding alcohol. Now over 2 billion people don't drink because of that, 1,400 years ago. So this is why, me and Bek Lover, I like our dynamic, but I really want to stick to the beauty. And teaching the good side of things, because even if Islam, these are people, think about this for a second. Play the hypothetical with me. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, he is a messenger of our Creator. Like literally the Creator outside of time sent this man to communicate with humanity.
Would you mind telling the story of him when you're done this point, just for people out there who actually aren't familiar and just hear the name all the time, but finish the point. I just want to hear.
So this is, play hypothetical for a second. This is truly a Creator. A messenger on behalf of our Creator. Bro, that means the people at his time, they're receiving the true message from a literal messenger of God, and it still took them 10 years to stop drinking, to stop doing these sins, right? So then as Muslims, we look around and we expect we're gonna go on podcasts and just try to shove our rules in people's throats, and even a messenger of God didn't do that. They're receiving revelation and information from literally the wisest man to ever walk the earth, as we believe, one of the best examples ever. And even they needed a decade to then first fall in love with God and fall in love with thinking about the afterlife and the idea of judgment day. And then slowly their heart softens and they lose love for that sin. You know what I'm saying? So what did you want me to explain?
I want you to explain the origin of Muhammad and the actual story, not just what people hear in, a one-sentence description on some fucking news show. Yeah,
so the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, he was born in Mecca. I believe his parents passed away at a younger age, right? And it wasn't until, what was he, in his 40s or 50s that he received revelation? So he was known in Mecca at the time as the trustworthy person. I believe the word is al-amin, right?
Yeah, he was known as a very noble person in that society, which was called the time of ignorance. They were literally burying their daughters alive before he came. Okay, they were into all kinds of superstitions and worshiping statues and thousands of gods. And they were a really rough society. They were very nasty even with each other before he came. So whenever they had an argument, even before his prophethood, they would say, well, let's go to Muhammad to resolve it. So peace be upon him. His character was well established long before he became a prophet, right? Yeah. He was basically someone that everyone said, this is the only person that's actually honest amongst us. Let's go to him. And the same people that he came to bring this message of there's only one God, the same ones that went to him whenever they had a problem, whenever they had a dispute, turned around and wanted to kill the man once he started saying there's only one God. He could have had power in so many different ways. So to us, that's one of the signs and proof of his prophethood. But one more point real quickly. And the reason, everything he said before is I agree with. This is not a religion that tells you right away, cover your head and this and that. And I've been married. My wife's, you cannot force anybody in this faith. Because that's not faith, Julian. That's not true belief. As far as alcohol is concerned, what it inspires is, hey, I know this harms my fellow human being. I know it's not a small percentage of the population that's struggling with these problems. This is a big problem in America and the West. Alcohol, drugs. I've buried more than enough people in my life. And I know a lot of your audience has too. And it's not just because of, fentanyl. Okay. This has been going on for a long time in our country. It's been destroying our families. So what the Muslim looks at it like is these are my brothers and sisters in humanity. Yeah, me and you can be moderate. Yeah, we could probably, I'm going to be real. I had a good time back then, but God forgive me for it. Me and you could have one or two, a lot of people can, but so many, it's not a small percentage.
Many can't, yeah.
So many can't. So because our fellow brothers and sisters struggle so much with that, we as a family, the human family say, no, this is causing too much harm. And even though, me and you could drink a nice band. You don't think I miss Opus, bro? You don't think I miss Camus or whatever the fuck it was called? Bro, yeah, I miss the taste of wine. I'm not going to lie. But I don't miss what it did to people I know, my fellow neighbors, and how many. I've been to over 100 funerals, bro, at least in my lifetime.
What got you... Because obviously, like, your background as being family from Albania and like you have Islam in your background, but what got you so back in touch with the faith in recent years?
It was going through adversity, man. I lost a very close family member. It was devastating to me. And I was off the path. I was indulging in the material world and drinking and partying. Pump up the jam, pump it. So I was in that world, right, for a long time, Julian. But it took losing a very close family, member, and then just seeing the aftermath. All these people I thought that are really my friends, and once the drinking and the lights are off, no one really gives a shit about you. All these people you meet in the nightlife don't really give a fuck about you. They're just your friends in misery, because misery loves company. We're all distracted by these illusions of music and dancing, and meanwhile we're wasting the most precious thing we have. You don't waste time. I've seen how hard you grind. I've seen you since 3 years ago, Julian. Okay? I know how hard you work. I know literally every time I've come or message you or anything, I know how much of a fucking grind you've put into this. And that's why I'm very happy, because you're proof. Focus on something with everything you got. But in any event, so that's what it is.
Free will, though? You think
there is free
has
will,
to be an element of that?
But there's the game board is rigged. The game board is rigged. You could have been born Tyrone Johnson. You had no control over your birth and where your soul was placed. Am I wrong? He could have been born Carlos Hernandez and being chased by who knows right now. My point is, you had no control over your birth.
That's right.
So we believe, through God's divine wisdom, the game board of life. This is a simulation created by our Creator. That's what this is.
Simulation.
Yeah, it's His world. He doesn't need this to sustain Himself. He created this. I believe it's something He created to test humanity. I believe we had a choice in it too. I don't think it was against that. I think that I don't know. There's something that only He has knowledge of that we're all going to find out once this is over. This wasn't by accident. I've seen too many coincidences in my life to know that this is not by chance or random. Even me and him meeting each other, even you being here, where you are in proximity. Don't want to dox myself. To me, I don't find it by accident, bro. I think the longer you live, you start seeing all the coincidences and you're like, okay, this is really strange. Like there's
definitely something strange.
We're not here by accident, bro. I mean, do you believe at least that we're not here by accident?
Oh, I agree. I think it's the biggest miracle ever that you're even born. What is it? Like it's 1 in 4 trillion chance you even
grew
have
from
to
a
be
drop
Mm-hmm.
born.
of liquid, bro.
And how were you swimming in your dad's balls, Sonny?
Right.
Like this. We were like this and we made it, bro. They're like, all right, you guys ready? You want to talk about the Olympics?
Sonny, how does a Italian kid from Boston, I mean, you already kind of alluded to it. You had some drinking in your family that you saw. But how does an Italian kid from Boston make the switch to Islam at what, age 20 or 21?
20. So it's been just about 2 years now.
Yeah. What were all the things that brought that on?
The biggest thing is something called my fitra. My fitra. This is the Arabic word for it. It means your innate disposition, your innate knowledge. So you acknowledge we have a creator, right? Mm-hmm. And this creator placed some things inside of you innately, knowing that murder is wrong. You don't need a book to tell you that killing someone's wrong or stealing is wrong. You feel that inside of your heart. So this is what we would refer to as our fitra, our innate disposition, right? So when receiving the message of Islam, everything aligned so much with what I already believed in my heart. I couldn't even put it into words, such as this life being a test, such as praying to God alone. I grew up Catholic, so I was taught when you lose your keys, or I lost my green Skittles once, pray to St. Anthony to find that. I never did that stuff. I didn't pray to Jesus or anything. And that's no shade to anyone that does. But me personally, when I'm trying to connect with the higher power, I always pray to God alone, right? Aspects of praying 5 times a day, waking up with the sun, going to sleep with the sun, this life being a test. I'm not sure if I already said that. But basically everything that I kept learning about Islam, it was like what I already believed, and it was just reaffirming it. And then I didn't even want to jump right into, stopping drinking and stop talking to women and this and that. Are you familiar with how you become Muslim? Do you know the process?
No.
You go to Mecca, and then they have to kill a cow, and then they take the blood, and no. You say one sentence, bro.
You could have kept that bit going. I
They
would have
would've
followed.
believed it. Hit him
But how crazy is that? You would have just
followed.
listened.
I would have listened.
You say one sentence to become a Muslim.
One sentence.
One sentence. Do you believe there's nothing worthy? And this isn't a gotcha. This is not a gotcha. Do you believe there's nothing worthy of worship except our Creator?
Yes. Dude, that was what
That's the most important piece. That's the most important piece, and stick to that forever. That is the most important aspect of this entire test that we're in. And the second part of that sentence is, do you believe that the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, is the final messenger from our Creator? Which you haven't looked into it. Right. So I'm not expecting you to answer that right now. But you literally just say that statement. There's nothing worthy of worship except our Creator. Say that right now if you believe it. Say it. If you die tomorrow, that could be the ticket of getting in. And I believe that the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, is the final messenger.
And then you're a Muslim.
And then you're a Muslim. That's it.
As long as you
That's the
you know what?
No, but that's the first pillar.
You got to snip too, or is it doesn't matter if you're not shipped?
No, it doesn't matter, bro. The first pillar of Islam, the first pillar of Islam is your testimony of faith. So I was always very logical about it. I wasn't one of those guys that listened to the Quran and I started crying and I was like, this has to be from God. Or just when I was praying, that wasn't it for me. I looked at things very analytically. Praying to nothing but your Creator. I don't know what else you would pray to. You'd pray to something God creates? That doesn't make any sense to me.
Makes no sense.
And then you look at the evidences for why the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, is a true prophet. Firstly, you would look at, is his book actually preserved? Right? Because if he was the final messenger, but then people came and tampered with it, then how do you know what's the actual truth compared to what people tampered, cut, added? Do you get what I'm saying?
Yes.
So the evidences for that is that the Quran isn't even necessarily a book. It's like a recitation. There's 7-year-olds across the globe that have it memorized front to back.
That's crazy, bro.
As Bek was saying,
we're white boys, bro.
In Ramadan, bro. In Ramadan, from the first day to the last, if you
Please
go to,
come witness it yourself.
you should come
bro.
one day if you're open to it. And
we're not gonna convert you. We're not Jehovah's Witness.
It's crazy, bro.
Just come see it recited, bro.
The guys,
watch it.
Bro, they won't even. They're not, bro. Every Ramadan they sing the whole book, literally the whole book, and you won't even see. Bro, if they make one syllable wrong, the whole crowd
brother, you say it like this.
No, they say subhanallah and then they correct them mid prayer, bro.
Mid prayer.
Okay, so it's just, bro.
So there's that, right?
Notice I cut down the booze by 90%
so there's
since last episode.
The two biggest pieces of evidence for the Quran being perfectly preserved is one, that it's not even a book. People have it memorized. So you could burn every single Quran and it would be back tomorrow. And secondly, we have carbon dated manuscripts back to the time of the Prophet.
Yeah, they
peace
found
be
some
upon
from
him.
the
You can look
Crusades.
that up yourself.
They found some from the
Are you
Crusades.
familiar with how carbon dating works?
Yeah, we've talked about it on the show.
Yeah, exactly.
Julian
So
Dorey, bro.
it's a very legitimate scientific process to prove when something came about. So
What was the new one we were talking about last week, Deef? I forget what it's called. Fucking. Oh my God!
Fucking clay pots from Egypt?
What was that called? The dating that Will Brown was talking about. You know what I mean?
There's a new one. They created a new version. There's a new way.
because carbon dating is obviously something that's been used. That's
Yeah,
pretty good.
so they
but
found a new method.
There's a new one that's like really fucking exact. They
That's
were
awesome, dude.
doing Wyatt Tolaco with that. But go ahead. Uranium series dating, I think
But
so.
you could look up, I believe it's called the Birmingham manuscript. So you can pull that up. I don't know if you already did it.
That was the one they found.
Carbon dated Quranic manuscripts, specifically from the 7th century, provide strong evidence for the early compilation of the text, often dating close to the lifetime of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him.
Oh.
Okay, so preservation. And you can look into this more yourself. We're not telling you to believe us. Please don't believe us.
We challenge
look
you.
into it yourself.
So
and
look.
if anything I'm saying you disagree with or it doesn't make sense, just look into it. That's all we're asking. But I do believe everything I'm saying, for the most part, would make sense with people. I believe that this is hitting your heart.
Yeah.
Like praying to God alone. Mad simple. Mad simple,
Very
okay?
simple. I'm sorry you guys had to pray to my fucking hanging sweatshirts earlier.
No, it's all good, bro.
That was not an ideal spot.
No,
No,
we're
it's
just happy
fine.
we were able to pray, bro.
So, preservation, right? That's one evidence or one piece that you would look for this your second part of the testimony of faith. Is the Prophet Muhammad the final messenger or not, right? Next, you would look at what are the evidences for him being a prophet. So, this is a man in the desert that couldn't read or write, and he came claiming to receive revelation from God, the Holy Quran, and in that book, bro, there are historical predictions, things that his time, 3 to 9 years ahead of time, in the decades, in the centuries, and even things that are still coming true today, right? There's scientific miracles in the Quran that a man simply could not have known. Only our Creator could have known. There's numerical miracles. You can pull these all up. Look up scientific miracles, numerical miracles, historical miracles of the Quran. And then what's the other main one? Historical, numerical, scientific. That's like the main three. And then there's also the emotional component of what it's calling you to do. What is this message calling to you? Some people like to say Allah is Satan. The Quran's from Shaitan, from the devil. Quran says before you start every single prayer, you say, I seek refuge in God from the accursed Satan. Islam teaches you that the devil's your biggest enemy. Teaches you to believe in one God, pray to nothing but God. Believe in the messengers. Jesus, believe that Mother Mary was a virgin. Believe in past revelation. Believe in Judgment Day. Believe in God's divine decree. It only calls you to good.
Bro, to me is that the fact that this kid's only been a Muslim for less than like a year and a half.
It's amazing how much.
And
So
his passion, bro. I'm gonna be real. I've been Muslim a lot longer. He lifts my faith up. Like this kid, like to me, like as a Muslim, like someone that's been around for a while. This is the miracle to me, that someone could read this book that wasn't rammed down his throat, and within a year and a half have this much passion and conviction, bro. Like to me, it's just insane. Like
It's amazing.
So let's just spend like 30 seconds each on each of these. Can you just click that Reddit or whatever, and I'll remember which ones are legit. The word day in singular has been mentioned 365 times in the Quran, which is the amount of days in a year. The word month in singular has been mentioned 12 times. This one's crazy. The word sea is mentioned 32 times, and the word land is mentioned 13. If you do 13, what is that?
Plus 32
Plus
equals 45% of C. 32 divided by 45 times 100 equals 71.111% of land. Equals 13 divided by 45 times 100 equals 28.88%. Modern scientists currently has discovered that those numbers represent the exact proportions of surface area of sea and land.
bro.
The word life.
I couldn't read and write, bro.
That was
he couldn't read and write. Julian Dorey.
The word man is mentioned.
Illiterate.
The word man is mentioned 24 times, and the word woman is mentioned 24 times. And I believe, isn't that the amount of chromosomes that we have?
Yep.
24. So this is just a few, by the way. This is just a few
just
of them.
the mathematical
and that's
stuff.
just the numerical side. Now go to historical, and then you explain to me how he wrote this on his own. Because if he wrote this on his own, he's a genius. He's the smartest guy ever, and we don't even believe
There
the
was
prophet
no
wrote this.
microscopes. There was nothing. The human embryo, the 4 phases of the human embryo. I said this on the show before. Chewed substance like literally how the human embryo looks. There was no microscopes, Julian. They didn't have one for 1,000 years later. Like a primitive microscope, not even one that could see the human embryo. How could he have known? It's in the book. It's literally mentioned in the Quran, the 4 phases of the development of the human embryo. How? So to us, you don't think we think like people like you do. You don't think I thought like you do before? I do. Some guy walked on water. You got to be a fucking idiot to believe that. Let's be real. We're going to be real. Let's be real. Let's leave it all on the fucking table. Some woman was a virgin and she had a baby. Some guy went with a stick like this and said, Red Sea part. Like, I don't think that sounds fucking foolish. Of course, my common sense tells me that. But when you actually look into it, Julian, if you actually look into it, how I've come to accept those stories, because that does not make sense in today's world. Some guy walked on water, bro. Brought people back from it's like algebra, bro. I know this book is perfect. I know God exists. X plus Y gives me the Z, bro. I don't accept the Z. To me, the Z is the unknown. I didn't get to see Jesus walk on water. I know this book came from God, bro. I challenge anyone to go against it. I challenge anyone to look up the miracles of this book. And they're going to see, Julian. I'm not some fucking, I've never been, do I look like the kind of guy that follows people? Or I do what the fuck I want to do? Let's be real. I've been an alpha my whole life.
An alpha.
I don't listen to, I was excessive talking in class, most likely to have his own talk show. It all came true. Okay, I had a big mouth my whole life. I couldn't work in the corporate. I hated people, bro. Tell my boss, you're a fucking moron to their face. I never left a job peacefully. I scorched earth everything. I made sure I could never get back on the boat. I told my bosses to go to hell in front of the entire office, and that was a very nice way of saying it. What I'm trying to say is I'm not the kind of person that humbly follow, kumbaya, my Lord. I couldn't deny what I found. I couldn't deny what I was seeing. This is not even covering his prophecies. This is just what's in the Holy Quran. This is what's just coming, what we believe directly from God. Mathematical perfection. Even where the word Mecca is mentioned is exactly in the center of the book, which we believe, if you look at latitude and longitude, I believe there's some mathematical miracles with that also, latitude and longitude-wise, of where that box is positioned. Please clarify, because
Let me finish this point.
Just add this to the list. Please clarify the whole black cube bullshit, please.
Okay.
Let's just
we'll
sure
do this, and then we can do like a few of like the
Saturn worship,
the common criticisms of Islam. Okay, so we went over the numerical miracles, right? And these are just pure evidences. This is empirical evidence that we're looking at for proving that the Quran is from a divine source. This isn't emotional and being like, just believe what I believe and remove your logic. No, let's look at it together. Okay, the historical miracles. This one is personally my favorite. And the reason I looked this up is because I'm accountable for every single word that comes out of my mouth. If I say one thing wrong and someone catches me on it, not only am I responsible on Judgment Day, but that can then turn someone's heart away from listening to me. Oh, he was wrong about this. Let me just wipe away everything else he said, even though it might have been a sincere mistake. So everything I say, I'm very, very careful that it is factual at the end of the day, okay? So if you were to pull up Quran 30, 2-4, it says, the Romans have been defeated in the nearest land, but after their defeat, they will be victorious within 3 to 9 years. So a modern day comparison of this would be like, right now a man comes and he's saying, I'm from God, right? And Ukraine just got toppled by Russia. It's even called Russia, right? And this guy comes and says, in 3 to 9 years, not only will Ukraine become Ukraine again, but they're going to take over all of Russia. You'd say that's insane. That's insane. And if you were a false messenger, why would you make such bold claims? That's like if you're sports betting and you're making a parlay and the odds are 1 in the trillions, in the quadrillions, with all the different predictions that this book says, contradicting science at the time, contradicting what historians would predict is going to happen. You're contradicting the modern logic. It's not as much logic, it's more so the common consensus at whatever that time is with something scientific or historical. And you're right every time, every single time. Every single time. There's not one false prediction in the Quran or from the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. This is why I'm so passionate about it. Because you can't disprove it. I haven't seen any real evidence disproving that this book is from God. All they can do is take stuff out of context.
So
criticize his character.
There are people far more educated than me,
of course,
on various religions. I mean, that's not saying much. Who would probably right now be able to pick apart some things and be able to say, "Oh, well, I think this in the Quran therefore is wrong because it means that." That's just human nature. But I hear it all in a totally different lens, different context, different light. Similar arguments from anyone I talk to in the major world religions, be it Christianity or Judaism, and here's why it's right, and whatever. My whole thing with it is one thing I think I mentioned this earlier, but one thing we all have in common is that none of us, while we're all living here, will know until it's over what it really is. We don't. Everything is based on faith and on the best historical records that are based on faith and maybe some quote-unquote messengers, if they were true, in various religions who came here and said this is what it is. And so when we sit here and we start saying, no, this is exactly why this religion's right and why you have to follow it and all that, which, by the way, that's not what you're saying. You're not telling people they have to follow this. I'm not putting words in your mouth. It's like, well, what the fuck do all of us in this room even know about it? You know what I mean? Like, I don't mean to look at it way too broadly and perhaps cynically, but, to me, like, not that my way of living life is the right way. I'm just saying this is how I do it. I'm always like, look, something created me. Something powerful created me. I don't believe this thing came from nothing. Therefore, I got to be humble in the face of whatever that is. And I'm going to have to answer for that one day. So I'm a flawed human. But while I'm here, I'm going to do my best to do as much good as possible and call myself out when I do stuff wrong, and then hope for the best when it's done.
But that's not reality. I got this.
Well, I want to
That's not
finish the
reality.
point. I want to finish the
you've
point.
been
The
talking for
point.
10 minutes, bro.
The point. So do you.
No, I haven't.
The point that he asked me was, why did you accept Islam, right?
Yeah.
You said, why did you accept Islam? You already agreed with the first part. The second part, is he a true prophet or not?
Muhammad. Yeah.
This is why I accepted Islam. This is why. I looked at these evidences. I said, this book, in my head, it's more than likely that this is a messenger on behalf of our creator. And then after accepting Islam, just saying that one sentence, slowly I start praying. Once a week, twice a week, once a day. Let me make my prayers up at night. And then slowly it just keeps incrementing.
Did it change how you felt?
100%, bro. You go to levels spiritually that you didn't even understand were possible.
Like, can you describe that?
Like
Seeing dreams that come true.
Like
bro.
I don't stress anymore, bro. With dreams, that's one of the things. You can get insight onto what potentially is going to be happening in your life.